Stand by for manual transmission in 3, 2, 1.
The Haz-Res is the place to be. Farming bounties is the life for me. Pirates here to steal your mother load. I'll scan them for warrants and shoot them till they explode. 07 Commanders, Manus Dextra here with my fully engineered efficient beam Vulture Bounty Hunter build, and I think this might be my favorite ship build yet. I know I've said that before, but I really mean it this time. This is definitely my favorite small ship PvE build for sure, and it farms bounties so hard I had to repaint the ship John Deere green. This ship is not as fast or agile as a fully engineered Viper Mark III, but it is much tougher, and it's a much more efficient killer. It has a DPS rating as high as my fully engineered Viper and easy engineered Vulture, but unlike those builds with their overcharged multi-cannons, this build's efficient beams never need to reload and fire as long as you can hold down the trigger. As always, I've included a Coriolis link to this build in the description, along with a list of materials needed. While you're checking that out, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more Elite Dangerous content. Now, let's go to outfitting to break this build down. Starting with hardpoints, we're using two Class 3C large gimbaled beam lasers. Both are engineered to grade 5 efficient and both use the thermal vent experimental effect. This upgrade is available from Brew Tarquin. To unlock him, you'll need to work your way through Liz Rider and Heratani. I can't lie, this is a bit of a pain in the ass, but ultimately it's well worth the effort. A Vulture thus armed can fire indefinitely with a DPS output of over 50, while the thermal venting will keep things running ice cold. Moving on to utility mounts, we're using a Class D kill warrant scanner in the first slot. Normally, I'd go for a chaff launcher here, but this build runs so cold thanks to thermal venting that it's already extremely hard for enemies to lock on at any distance. So, we'll go with the kill warrant scanner to maximize profits. In the next 3 slots, we'll go with Class A shield boosters. 2 are engineered to grade 5 resistance augmented, and 1 is engineered to grade 5 heavy duty. All 3 use the supercapacitor experimental effect for extra shield strength. This combination gives us the best mix of damage resistances and increased shield capacity. These upgrades are available from DD Vatterman. For core internals, we'll start with reactive surface composites for the hull because this gives us maximum resistances for specific damage types. We'll engineer this to grade 5 heavy duty with deep plating to add a nice absolute hull boost as well. This modification is available from Selenium. If you want to save some credits, you could stick with lightweight alloys here. You'll also gain a bit of speed, but you will lose a lot of durability. For the power plant, we're using a Class 4A engineered to grade 3 overcharged with a monstered experimental effect obtained from Heratani. We're only engineering to grade 3 because that will give us enough power to run the build. And we're using Heratani because we need to work through her to get to Brew Tarquin anyway. For thrusters, we're using a Class 5A because that's the biggest and best we can fit. And as usual, it's engineered to grade 5 dirty drive tunings with the drag drive experimental effect from Professor Palin. This is pretty much standard for combat ships and any other application where you want to go fast and thermal loads aren't an issue. The rest of the core internals are identical to the easy engineered Vulture build. For the FSD, we're using a Class 4A engineered for increased range with a mass manager effect. Again, this is pretty much the standard, and it gives the Vulture a respectable jump range of just under 21.5 light years. This can be obtained from Felicity Farseer. Life support is an unengineered Class 3D. This gives us 7.5 minutes of air if we blow a canopy, and that should be plenty of time for most situations. The power distributor is a 5A engineered to grade 5 charge enhanced with the cluster capacitor effect. This is also pretty much the standard upgrade for combat ships, obtained from the Dweller, a level 1 easy engineer. For sensors, I went with 4As engineered for lightweight to grade 3 from Felicity Farseer. I used 4A sensors because it has better range and performance, and I thought it might make finding targets in the Haz-Res a bit easier. However, if you want to go with 4D sensors to save a bit of mass and money, you probably won't notice much of a difference. Also, grade 5 engineering is available from Lee Chung, but I just didn't bother. Moving on to optional internals, we'll go with a Class 5C biweave shield generator. Biweave shielding is also pretty much the standard for small and medium combat ships, mainly because of its ability to regenerate much faster than standard shields. For engineering, we'll go with thermal resistant grade 5 from Lee Chung, and we'll be using the fast charge experimental effect. Thermal resistance is always a good choice because stock shields are weakest against thermal weapons like those often used by the NPC pirates we're hunting. This upgrade helps to minimize that weakness, and the fast charge experimental effect allows our biweave shields to regenerate even faster. Taken together with our shield boosters, this gives us 716 megajoules of absolute shield power with a thermal resistance of over 1600 megajoules, kinetic resistance of over 1300 megajoules, and an explosive resistance of over 1900 megajoules. In the next Class 5 slot, we're using a 5D hull reinforcement package engineered to grade 5 heavy duty with a deep plating experimental effect from Celine Jean. In the Class 4 slot, we're using an unengineered 4A fuel scoop for quality of life while traveling. To finish out optional internals, in the Class 2 slot, I've added a 2D module reinforcement package, and in the remaining Class 1 slots, I've added 2 additional hull reinforcement packages and 1 more module reinforcement package. These Class 1 modules do actually add quite a bit of protection. After engineering the Class 1 HRPs, one to grade 5 heavy duty with deep plating and the other to grade 5 thermal resistant with deep plating, our hull has an absolute rating of almost 1900 with explosive, kinetic, and thermal resistances of over 2800 for each damage type. That makes this little beast extremely hard to kill even when the shields break, which shouldn't happen very often. So that's the build, Commanders. The whole thing should cost about 36 million credits to build with a rebuy of only 1.8 million. That makes this a really good ship to use for learning PvP too. Just be sure to swap out those beams for efficient plasma accelerators first. As usual, I'll leave you with some of the Vulture's greatest hits.
Impressive.
Until next time, Commanders.
You will now be released from manual control. Mr. Dextra thanks you for your cooperation. You will now be released from manual control. Mr. Dextra thanks you for your cooperation.